It was a gun.
I'm not voting.
If we want to build our nation.
The problem with the Somalians.
Just want to experience something else than a black man.
Move on, move
Can't be
forward.
like a horse with blinkers on.
Honestly say, I was about to have sex
Corrupt
and then I pulled
crap,
up.
but it's nice.
My name is Tyler Shea. I am a freelance writer and independent filmmaker.
Hi, my name is Taniko Diodatu. I am a registered student psychologist at the University of Namibia, as well as the president of the UNAM Psychology Society.
Hi, my name is Lee. I'm 25 years old and I'm an artist.
Myself personally, I've come close to losing several friends to taking their own lives. And one of them I actually got a last message from. She told me that she couldn't do this anymore and that this was goodbye. I had to rush over to her house immediately to find her in the middle of the act. So I also personally have been affected by this, but I've never ever had suicidal thoughts myself. I've just seen the effects that it can have on other people. So I just want to know about you. Have you ever had any similar experiences, or do you know what it's like? Do you know anyone who's dealt with something as severe?
When I was around, I think I was 14, one of my friends did commit suicide. And in high school, there were a couple of people that I know that took their own lives. I myself, when I was a teenager, was diagnosed and struggled with suicidal ideation, which is one of the factors that motivated me to go into mental health, because I went to therapy and my therapist changed the way that I looked at things and my outlook and really gave me a new hope for life. So now I sort of want to give back to people. But in Namibia, you know, it is quite common. If you don't know somebody personally, then you know somebody who knows somebody. And it's quite disheartening to see.
I've been to therapy as well for family issues, but that definitely affected my outlook on life. Therapy didn't work out that much, and that led to further issues within my family, and definitely did lead to suicidal thoughts, and then also having a couple of friends, one who personally sent me a last message as well. Um, I couldn't rush over. I didn't have the ability to do so, but I could only deal with, calling around, finding out, what happened and things like that. Being um, left in a shocked or nervous state, not knowing if one of your best friends is alive, it does affect you. And luckily, my friend did survive. And also recently again, one of my partner's friends did uh, try and commit suicide. Unfortunately, is also still alive today. So yeah, it's quite close to home.
You know, at the high school where I give counseling, I've seen there's a lot of kids now who are experiencing mental health troubles. I think coming from the pandemic, there's also a few that have lost family members. I know of one student I counsel who lost both of her parents, father to the pandemic, mother earlier. So the kids are struggling as well.
Do you feel comfortable in your current working environment to talk about your mental health, whether it be happy or stress? Do you feel that you can share that kind of information in your workplace?
At the moment, no. I'm quite isolated at my current place of work. I work from home for the past year and a half. So um, the only time I do get to vent or speak about whatever mental health situation I'm going through is with my partner, who also works from home. So both of us basically give each other, that space to vent and to have some sort of therapy. We deal with it ourselves as well. So in terms of speaking about it at work to our colleagues and things like that, there's not really time.
For me, of course, coming from the profession that I come from, it is a very safe environment, including in the classroom setting. We offer a lot of support to one another. But I do know and understand that that is a privilege, and most people do not have that, especially within, I think, sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Africa. mental illness is a bit of a tough topic for people to deal with. So it really is a privilege to have the support that I do have.
I've worked in a call center, and I've been put under so much pressure that I was eventually given medication by my personal doctor, and the work itself, the company itself, gave me resources to, seek further help. But when it came to accommodating for me to be able to seek help, there was like no leeway. You had to come to work, you had to deal with what you were going through, you had to take your medication, and the medication I was on, it affected my sleep, and eventually I had to leave the company. I couldn't deal with it anymore, because the stress just kept building up, and peak pandemic as well. Um, we also had to work from home, so I became even more isolated as well. And yeah, things just went downhill.
Here in Namibia, in the last 17 months, there have been 679 suicides, and 559 of those have been male. That doesn't seem like a lot, but we have to remember that our population is quite small compared to South Africa. There's more people in Cape Town than my entire country. But then in South Africa, in 2019, there were almost 14,000 suicides, and roughly 11,000 of those were male of the 14,000. And so, I do believe that there are various different reasons that can account for the high rates in male suicide, but I definitely do agree that the Southern African viewpoint of the man as having to be the strong, silent type definitely influences that, as well as the having to be the provider, and especially with an unemployment rate that's so high. I believe it's 33% in South Africa, 30% here in Namibia. It can be difficult for the men to be fulfilling that cultural ideal of providing. On the issue of work-related depressive episodes, this is an issue that we as clinicians know to be affecting millions of people around the world. And in South Africa, there's about 1 in 4 employees. A study conducted said 1 in 4 employees have depression. Another said it's around 10%, or 4.5 million employees. So, I mean, it's there. We know it's there. And if you look at the average age of onset of depression and anxiety, it's around 25 in Southern Africa. And it's interesting that this is around the time when people are entering the workforce.
Within South Africa, having a high crime rate, having a high unemployment rate, having a high suicide rate, when it comes to crime and when it comes to unemployment, there's a lot of campaigns, going on, to bring awareness towards the situation, to show people how they can assist with lowering the crime rate or the unemployment rate. And same thing goes for the field of mental health. We need to campaign more. We need to make more people aware that it is okay to seek help, that regardless of what society defines a man as, a man still needs to look after himself as well. And same goes for women. Um, Especially if you've been raised by people who have that old school mentality of, oh, you can just carry on. Mental health is like a myth, So if we can just change the stigmatization around mental health issues, then I'm sure I'm sure people will be impacted in a positive way.
Then I just want to give another perspective and say that, firstly, I feel that the discussions that we have around depression and anxiety need to change a bit, because we need to start understanding that anxiety and depression, these are almost normal emotions that everybody experiences, or most people will experience. And then when it comes to major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, that is a pathological version of those emotions. So it's a chronic, persistent version of that emotion that almost everyone experiences. And I think once we start discussing it in that way, people can start to relate more to others. Like, oh, well, I've had anxiety as well, but of course, what you're experiencing is just a lot worse than what I have. And then secondly, from what I think clinicians can do better is when we try and go into communities here in Southern Africa, the way that we communicate what anxiety is, what depression is, what these disorders are, I think that they need to change, especially now with, you know, our cultural connectedness and so forth. We can't go into communities and go and speak to them in terminology that they may not understand or be familiar with, especially when you look at in Africa, this goes for the whole of Africa, not just Southern Africa, the viewpoint of a lot of disorders is very different from the westernized biomedical viewpoint that we've all been trained in and educated in. So, you know, there aren't even direct translations in a lot of native languages for terms like depression and anxiety. For example, in Xhosa, it's called Inzaki, which means worrying about problems. That's one term that's used. In Rwanda, they refer to it as Intuntu, which means deep sadness. So nobody really translates it directly. So before we go into these communities, clinicians should do research. How does this community describe depression? Do they view it as a spirit entering the body? How do they view it? And then go in there and explain it to them on a level that they can understand, instead of entering there in sort of a scientific colonialism way and saying, oh, well, how you see it is wrong. It's not empirical, it's not scientific, and this is the right way. So change the way we speak about it, educate ourselves, and teach people on a level that they can understand.
My mother was recently diagnosed with depression, but she was diagnosed after I had dealt with quite a lot of anxiety coming out of college, and I was hospitalized, and I dealt with a lot of stress-related illnesses. When she was diagnosed with depression or having a depressive state currently, she came to me and she finally sat me down and she was like, you know, I knew you were going through a lot, but I didn't know that this is what it felt like. And I didn't know that I felt this way before. And I felt that that sentence was so important because there wasn't a way for me to come and explain that to her. It was only for her to relate once someone educated her and once she understood that it wasn't only an extreme case. You can feel various, I could say, various degrees of this, as you mentioned before. And as long as we can try to figure out a way to break that language barrier and also to allow for everyone to understand the concept and not just on the, as you mentioned, the colonialized scientific westernized ideals of it, but also getting that to be a conversational topic where I can mention it to someone of any degree and they'll understand where I'm coming from. I think that is the objective, the end objective of these discussions. And my dream is we can all hope for a better future. We can all hope for a better world, but I just hope that we can come together as a country. So Ubuntu forever. I hope that we can join together and make our nation stronger through understanding and through community.
My dream would be unity and a safer place for everyone, in terms of mental health, in terms of safety. You know, it's just a community, a worldwide community.
My dream is really to work towards destigmatizing mental illness within Africa, and especially Southern Africa, as well as being able to conduct research and help children with developmental disorders.
Yazi, you should ever sit and talk with people, or else take a walk and create a straight talk. Talk what is nice, it will make you feel stronger. Listen what is right and say what is wrong. You should ever sit and talk with people, or else take a walk and create a straight talk. Talk what is nice, it will make you feel stronger. Listen what is right and say what is wrong.